right, you are now tuned in to I Remember Gaming. This is Kodak, your host. And if you are new here, welcome. This is a channel about travel nostalgia, news, and personal gamer stories. This is our annual Christmas series where I bring to you my own personal gaming Christmas memories to share with all two of you. Jokes. Welcome all, our new friends. We have went from 70 to over 300 just in a few months. And I want to welcome everybody here. I am an expat currently living in Shenzhen, China, which is the Silicon Valley of China and one of the biggest electronics hubs in the world. Voice acted video games here. I throw retro conventions with some of my buddies over in Hong Kong. And I hang out with some of China's biggest YouTubers. DJs.
Yo, yo, yo! It's a Kodak moment right here, Old School Monday. Make some noise!
You know, I got my start in this whole game writing articles for a website called retrojunk.com. And that's kind of the idea for my channel. I try to model these videos in the form of kind of a retro junk article. You know, a lot of really personal memories, we go heavy on, stuff like that. I try to throw out what everyone's doing on YouTube and kind of go my own way with, you know, the personal reflections of video games and how they impact all of our lives. Previously on I Remember Gaming. It was the greatest thing I had ever borne witness to. It took my breath away. Earth-shattering, mind-blowing, breathtaking! The birth of my children versus the first time I saw an N64? Well, you know, my kids are great and all. When asked about what I think is sexier, my wife, or the first time I saw a Nintendo 64. I mean, does it really matter? Do we have to compare things like that? It was the best thing. In 1997, I was in the 8th grade, and I was a child in transition. I went from being, you know, kind of a troublemaker in grade school to actually hanging out with some real rough dudes. This sequence of events had alarmed the entire small religious, tightly knit community that I lived in, known as Lehi, Utah. This was the second year of the Nintendo 64 being on the market, and I was pulling out all the stops on trying to let my parents know this is the toy that I wanted this Christmas. Now, if you follow this channel at all in detail, you know that I never had a contemporary video game system, home console that is, until the Nintendo 64. I got my NES in 95, I got my Virtual Boy in 96, and I got my Super Nintendo after I got my Nintendo 64. Up until this point, my parents weren't really keen on video games, but after I found that secretly hidden regular Nintendo hiding in my own house, if you haven't seen that video, check it out immediately, I kind of warmed them up to the fact that I was going to be a video gamer for the entirety of my life. Anyways, I had a really good feeling about this year. This would be the year of the Nintendo 64 for your friend Kodak. In my house, my dad had a few rules. My cousin from Texas had recently moved in with us. She was going to college in Utah, and she had gone home for the holidays, leaving all of her stuff in the room across from mine. My dad told me, you know, we're going to keep that door locked. We're not going to disturb any of her stuff while she's gone. I was pretty okay with this. Rewind to when she first moved in, I wasn't okay with it at all. When we first moved into the house 3 years prior, my dad said, hey, you know the room across the hall from you. Here you go. Have a Lego/Commodore 64 room all to yourself, complete with a giant piece of plywood that he laid down over the carpet which I proceeded to build an entire Lego city upon. In the other side of the room, I had my Commodore 64, where I had tons and tons of amazing adventures on that. I was kind of angry when she first took over the room, but at this point, I didn't care. Now, it was getting close to mid-December when I started to notice something strange. My dad kept going in and out of the room across from mine late at night when he didn't think I was watching. I'd hear the door open, you know, he'd put a key in there and he'd go in, I'd hear some messing about, and he'd leave. I didn't think much of it, you know, whatever. I was starting to wonder what was going on in that room. What is he doing? Why is he in Emily's room? Doesn't make any sense. Now, after about 3 times of this happening, remember, I was a troublemaker, and troublemakers get curious, especially about things going on under their own nose in their own house. My dad held a pretty high position in the local church, where they gave him keys to 2 of the local buildings. I was very familiar with where my dad kept his keys because, like I said, being the bad kid I was, I would steal those keys on his days off, round up all the boys in the neighborhood, and we'd roll over to the church to have some basketball games on their full official-sized stadium basketball court. Yeah, I said that right. I used to steal my dad's church keys to break into the church to play basketball. Peter Priesthood was my other name I went by. Lately though, my dad had kept a little bit tighter rein on his keys. See, I got busted a few months prior. I ended up accidentally locking my dad's keys in the church, and I hit up this girl down the street from me I had a crush on named Katie. I got Katie to help push me up through one of the vent windows, you know, one of those tiny vent ones, and I got stuck. Someone saw 2 teenage retards breaking and entering the church, recognizing me as my father's son, and of course, they snitched. Suffice it to say, he was keeping the keys a little closer to his person. Now, like most baby boomer dads of the 80s and 90s, my dad had his ultimate lazy boy chair recliner that he'd always fall asleep in. My friends and I dubbed his lazy boy the money chair, because as my dad slept, his change would fall out into every crevice of the chair, giving us unlimited arcade action for free. I recalled my dad had lost his keys a few times, only to locate them within the chair later. Now, back then, I loved to try to get my dad into the movies that I was into, but he always would fall asleep while I showed them to him. I knew those keys were in his pockets. Was I so bold? Could I pull off a heist of this magnitude? Duh! I still remember the nerve-wracking scenario that went down that night. My mom and I had just gone to Smith's Food and Drug Store down the street. Local grocery store my mom let me rent movies from back in the 90s.
Okay, Mike, you can pick out 1 VHS tape. I'll go look over here.
What would Dad fall asleep to? Here's a movie that you might fall asleep to. Hey, Mom, can I rent this? Transformers the movie.
Haven't you already tried to get that one for Dad, and didn't it put him to sleep?
Well, I want him to see the full thing.
Okay, if that's what you want to get. I'm gonna go get some groceries. You want an Ecto Cooler and Surge, right?
Now, the movie I was gonna rent, Transformers 1987. A surefire way to make my dad fall asleep. I knew because I had tried to get him to watch it like 19 times. Now, as I got home, I convinced my dad that it would be absolutely feasible that he rolled with me to the TV room and partook of some amazing Transformers 1987. As the movie began, my mom brought in dinner. Tonight was kids' cuisine for me and some old leftovers for my pop. I'm gonna just take a stance here. If you haven't tried Kids Cuisine's macaroni and cheese, it's the best macaroni and cheese ever made. Now, as he finished his food, Megatron had just finished killing all of the Autobots in the shuttle. I was intent on my dad, but to my surprise, this time, he was very engaged in the movie, staying awake well past Optimus Prime's death and Ultra Magnus' death. I was getting a little bit worried. Aren't you gonna fall asleep, brah? Isn't it time to go to sleep, brah? Starting to panic as Cup and Hot Rod escaped the planet of junk. But finally, he started to get a heavy look in his eyes. Alright, game time. My first attempt resulted in a startled snore, half wake up by my pop as I tried the pocket closest to me. I snatched my hand back and stared at the TV, terrified that I was busted. This time, I rewound Transformers about 20 minutes so there'd be more than enough background noise as I tried again. This time I was able to get into his pocket nearest to me. Nothing! Damn it! Now, getting the other pocket was gonna be tricky, but finally, I was able to kind of move around and I had to reach into his pocket, the side closest to the wall and the window. I reached in and bingo, I found the keys. Slowly I pulled them out. I was leaning down on the floor, he was, kind of leaned back. I had the keys, I pulled them over, and I hit the windowsill. Dropped the keys. They went down, I looked down, no, hit the carpet, clang! They hit the heater vent on the floor, making a loud bash. What the hell was that, Mike? My dad said. I froze, turned back and looked at the TV. What are you talking about, Dad? That's Unicron, the planet-eating transformer. Remember? Didn't you fall asleep again? He's going to eat Cybertron and then Earth. Come on, pay attention. This is Transformers 1987. Rah, rah, rah. Hey, how you doing? Mike, what was that noise? Don't screw with me. Noise? I didn't hear noise. What are you talking about, noise? It's probably just a transforming sound. I bided my time, and soon, snoring. Yeah. Now, I crept out of the room and flew down the stairs. When I got to my cousin Emily's room, I busted out the keys and started rolling through the set, quickly finding the correct one. I opened the door and flipped on the light. What was I looking for? Okay, there's 2 ugly beds from the Qing Dynasty. There's a pile of all my cousin's stuff. I opened the closet. Okay, here's my mom's old 80s Michael Jackson zipper jacket and all of her 1920s wardrobe. I dropped to the floor and remembered this is where my mom kept all of her scrapbooking stuff in giant plastic bins. Same old plastic bins under both beds that were always there. I went to push myself up. Then something caught my eye.
What did Kodak suddenly find under the bed? Tune in next time on I Remember Gaming. Same bat time.
Same bat station.